Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome and welcome to a new week. I thought I would create some Thrinchies because they're just great fun to just sort of practice or just create a little project. But they're great little ideas for using your stamps and I'm just loving them. And now we've got them in black and I'm probably going to get them in craft card as well. So we can really continue to enjoy what we've been enjoying for a long time now. Oh, I love that one where I emboss the stencil. Love that. So I thought I would create a couple more Thrinchies because I just love looking back on them. I could look back on them all the time. So we've done 46, 47, 48. We're on 49. 49 we're on, and I thought I'd showcase some of my older stamps. Now this is TE12, we're up to TE50 now, and I thought we'd use this, and then TE8 has also got one that coordinates with it as well if you wanted to, but they're perfect for sitting things inside as well. So I thought that is just a lovely idea. Let's move this out of the way. Let me grab my grabbing my little gel press just to create a little background. Now we're just going to do something really simple, and I thought if I grab my little distress oxides, that works quite nicely with what I want to do. I'm just trying to decide what colours to use, which is the hardest bit. I think I'm going to sort of go for blues and greens. So let's have a couple of Thrinchies on the go at the same time. So I'm going to be using TE12 and TE8. And I'm obviously going to stand something in here as well. So that'll work quite nicely. And what I'm going to do is use the Thrinchies. So the first one, I think what I'm going to do, let's pick the colours first. So I'm going to use Salty Ocean, Peacock Feathers, Cracked Pistachio and Bundled Sage. There we go, I've got my colours in there. And for the first one, I'm just going to do a really simple technique. So let's grab the lightest colour first. So the lightest colour, I'm just going to, there you go, there's Bundled Sage. We're then going to use Cracked Pistachio. And we're just going to use Cracked Pistachio. Can you see? I'm just using them to make marks onto my Thrinchie. So that's the Bundled Sage. Then we've got the Cracked Pistachio, and then going to take the Peacock Feathers. So take the Peacock Feathers. Then I'm going to take the Salty Ocean. Just take the Salty Ocean. And then I'm going to repeat. So I'm going to take Bundled Sage. Now you can do this with your big ink pads. Bundled Sage, Cracked Pistachio. Cracked Pistachio. Then Peacock Feathers. Okay, and then Salty Ocean. So I've used colours that will work together really nicely. So next, let's just move these out of the way at the moment. And the first thing I need to do, which I never do, is just make sure that that brush is clean. And you've guessed it, it's not clean. Because Tracy's very naughty and she should clean her brushes before she puts them away. Okay, So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take some water, and I've got a round brush. This is round number 5, but if you've got a brush that holds quite a bit of moisture, that's great. And then I'm just going to sort of activate the colours. And can you see how much water I've got on there on my actual brush? There we go. So I've got the colours on there, and I can now spritz with a little bit of water just to give a little bit of so that the inks oxidise. Okay, so let's just leave that on there, leave it to do its thing. We can also take a little bit of water, and let's just activate this here. Now look how wonderful that pink frog card is. Look how it moves. I'm not doing hardly anything, I'm just touching it with some water, and look how that moves. The colours just move beautifully. So let's just, there we go. Look at that mix of colours, yummy. So what we're going to do then is we're going to take our next Thrinchie. Let's move that on one side, and then we're going to take our gel press, and I'm using the 3x5 gel press. Let's put this on an acrylic block because then you'll see everything better, she says confidently. Come on, acrylic block, where are you? So take an acrylic block, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one on my work surface like so. So I can see through that gel press. And then I'm going to have my other Thrinchie here. So then I'm going to take, I need to just turn it so you can see, I'm then going to take bundled sage. So we'll take bundled sage. We'll then take cracked pistachio. Take our cracked pistachio, so nothing complicated at all. Then we'll take peacock feathers. And then we're going to take salty ocean. To take salty ocean. I think I'll just add a little bit more bundled sage. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is, let's move these out of the way because you can't see a thing. Then I'm going to take my fan brush, take a little bit of water. Let's take that fan brush. Now with the fan brush, it's just a little bit more delicate with the splatters. So I'm just going to add splatters just to the gel press. And if you're finding that you've not got enough, just add a little bit more water. It's just a little bit more controlled. And I can see that I've got it in the right area because I've got the Thrinchie underneath. So I can see where I need to put my Thrinchie on the top. Look at them colours, just gorgeous here. So then I can place this Thrinchie lined up with my other Thrinchie. There we go. And I'm just going to leave that sitting on there for a few seconds just to do its thing. Just allow that to do its thing. And then I'm just going to lift this. So you've now got a background, and then I'm just going to just spritz with water, just so that it moves a little bit more, just so you can see it moves a little bit more. There we go. And you can still, let's just grab another, let's move that on one side. You can still take your water here, take the fan brush again, and just dab again with the water. Let's just pick up this excess water. You can then take another Thrinchie, again lined up with the previous one, and you can just press that down. Again, just wipe around here if you're finding that, you know, your fingers are slipping. So can you see this one here? Just move that along. Just beautiful colours. You can also just add a few splatters to that, still continuing, because it'll just oxidize a little bit more by adding those splatters of water. But that's what I love about the oxides, how they move, how the colour moves. It's just wonderful. And you can just leave this to do its thing. The longer you leave it, the better. So let me just lift this up. I can now lift this up. I've got this Thrinchie underneath. And then I can just turn that over and I can see exactly what's happening. So if you want, I can press just so it moves a little bit more. So you can see it's not moving too much. And then if I just lift that up, I've got my design on there, and then I can just spritz with a little bit more water so that we get a little bit more movement. But it's a little bit more open than this design. So let's just, and the longer you can leave them sitting there, the better. You've probably also still got ink on here. Now obviously you could test that to see if you've got another print. Let me just, but can you see the difference? Let me just clean this and see if there's anything on there. You see there's still a little bit of colour on there. But as you can see, you've got 3 different backgrounds here. One is more solid, one is from the lines that we created, and one is the 2nd generation print. And we love that one. And you can still, even with this one that's got quite a bit of ink on there, you can still take that fan brush and still continue to add water so that it still continues to react. And you can do that with both of them. And I can see you've sort of got cells in that one. It's just lovely. So let's just mop that up a little bit. So I'm going to bring my heat tool in, but I don't know whether you can see that in camera. Yes, you can. It almost looks like you've got cells here. Right, so we've done nothing complicated at all. So let's grab our heat tool. And then you can see when you leave your card, it actually starts to flatten itself, which is quite handy. So we'll just leave those just up here somewhere out of the way. And let's just clean this, move our little inks out of the way. And I'm just going to give this a dry. Again, you can still come in. Let me just, because I can't help it, I have to do it. How can you lose your fan brush? You've just had it 30 seconds ago. Oh, it's there in front of me. So we can just, again, keep continuing to add water. And it just sort of adds a texture to your card. And if you add it some here on this side here, it'll start to bleed in that area. I think what I'm trying to say is if you want it to, see, it'll move. If you want it to look slightly different, just by adding more water, you can get it to move further across if you wish. So it's entirely up to you. Don't think that you've got to leave it the way it first comes out. So I'm going to give this a dry now. What lovely colours those are. Just lovely. And obviously I can just mop up that real lot of moisture there and just dab that up there so it just doesn't take as long to dry. Look at them colours. Just gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. Oops, she says as she nearly drops that over. Just look at them colours. I love them. Absolutely love them colours. And you can quite simply then take your stamp that we've got here Now, can you see that the stamp, it actually comes as a whole. So if you want to, you can cut around this if you want and have bits separately. It's entirely up to you. I cut out my birds. It's because on an A7 stamp set, I want you to get your money's worth, so I crammed as much as possible in there. There we go. So then I'm going to grab my Twilight ink. So I'm going to grab Twilight, VersaFine Clair Twilight. And what I'm going to do is I'm using the edge of the Twilight. I'm going to lift this up so you can see it. And then I'll have to ink it again just in case I haven't got enough on there. But if you look at it, you've got hearts on there. And if you look, I've just inked around here. I haven't necessarily inked in here or there or here where I've got some text. I think it says fly free. Yes, it does. And it says magical moments and dream. You can cut them off if you want. It's your stamp set. So let's again ink this again. Let's have those hearts. Now, it doesn't have to be an overly complicated design. So then we can add, let's just add that there. Now, I did create a bauble out of this as well, which I've shown on Facebook in the last couple of hours. So I did create a bauble out of this as well. So you can see, because I've got those oxide inks underneath there, it's important that I give this VersaFine Clair plenty of time to make that impression on there. Don't rush your process. So just take your time. Now, you could easily create a wreath out of this as well. And also you can turn it the other way round. So let's just lift this up. So you've got your stamp there. And if you want to, you can turn this way round. So you then can have things standing this way as well. So it works quite nicely because you can do it that way as well. These are low on numbers now, but I've actually just ordered some more stock. So it's the extra stock's here next week as well. So I've had to order loads more. So we've got a lovely design there. And then let's bring in, so again, nothing complicated. Now look at these two backgrounds here. I mean, I think they are scrummy backgrounds. They're just gorgeous. I mean, look at that one. Oh, I just love them. So I can do another Thrinchie with them. But I just love that. Absolutely love it. So I'm just going to sort of mop up just that excess there. That's it. And then I'm just going to give it, because can you see how flat it's dried? Because I've not used the heat tool, it just flattens out. So I'm just going to give it a little waft. But look at them colours. Oh, just scrummy. So what you can do then, if we take, oh Tracy, put that out of the way. So we've got our TE12 here. Now if we take the Malva, you've got one on there. And if we take this stamp set, if you want to, you can have this way up as well, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take, let's put this one back on again. I've got that many bits of plastic everywhere. There we go. So then I can add this to my acrylic block. And again, I'm just going to come round and ink the areas I want. So I've got a couple of little florals on there. But I can can still stand things on the inside. And if I don't want anything on the inside from here, I can just wipe away anything that I don't particularly want. There we go. And then I can add this way up, like so. So let's place this, let's bring it down so it's slightly off there. And then add this. So there's lots you can do with them. And these stamps I designed last year. One of the first releases, that's why it's number TE8 and TE12. And I'm just giving that a little bit extra time because this card is even wetter than the previous card. Just lovely. Now look at that. You've got somewhere to stand something. You've got somewhere to stand something here. It works really nicely. You could add some branches and things like that. So it works really nicely. And this one is smaller than that one. So you can vary your designs up a little bit. So of course, Tracy wants something standing in there. So I'm going to use, I've got that many things that could stand in there. And if you want to see, a wonderful tutorial, check out Amanda Branston's tutorial. She's done one where she did it all herself freehand and she's put my cats inside there. It looks brilliant. So I want, can't make my mind up. So I might have the pheasants in here. You could also have a floral standing up there as well. But let's grab TE32 and let's grab the pheasants. So you could have the cats in here. You could have anything you wish. But it changes it, and this is why I designed it this way. So you can add whatever you want to the inside. Or you can add branches coming out of here. So let's take, not in, I want the black knot in now for my pheasants. So let's take, so at the moment all I've done is stamp and a bit of ink. Nothing too complicated at all, especially for my lovely friend Deb. Right, so let's just take these now. Let me have these, shall we have these here? So we'll have the two pheasants there, like so. See, there's a multitude of things that you can add to the inside of your, look at that. Oh, doesn't it look brilliant? So then you can, which one do I want now? I always pull the wrong one. I want that one, so take that one off. So I'm going to ink this one now. But it's how you can change it up so many times. So let's bring the pheasant in, like so. Oh, just look, it looks brilliant. Then, see, this is why I end up with 6 billion things. Let's get my other stamp set, my little light bulb. Where are you? TE, there we go. So if I take TE24, which has got this little light bulb, and that one's more circular, you can see, let's take TE24, and it's got a little light bulb on there, which is just stuck to the acetate. So let's take the little light bulb, like so. I nearly stamped that in the wrong colour. We can then, all I need to do, because I want to colour it, so I'm just going to give it a dark edge with the twilight. So I'm sort of going to go around the light bulb with the twilight. Yes, I know I'm touching the acrylic block, but we can just go round with that and just make an impression, because we can then add some coloured pencils. Just add the light bulb here. But what I'm trying to show you here is how you can change these up. So we're going to colour that. So that's there. And then if you want to add some branches to this, always look at your stamps, because I've created these so they all work together. And some of these have been out ages, but sometimes you can forget. You know, something new will come out and then you forget. Right, let me, where's 38? 31, 3, 5. I did this last time and then couldn't find 38. Which one are you then? Oh, it's with this, isn't it? It's with the bubbles. So if you take TE38, like this, TE38 silhouettes. If we take that stamp set, so let's take that stamp set, and we've got a tree that we can now use the branches. I've got too much stuff everywhere. So now I can take the tree, and then I can take my black Nocturne and just add a little bit of ink to the edge. Now let me just grab a little bit of copier paper. So again, I haven't done anything complicated. If I just grab a little bit of copier paper, I can just sort of grab that edge. Let's take a little bit more. I'm going to ink more of that than I actually need, because I can't decide how much I'm going to use. So then I can add a few little branches like so, which is the whole reason I designed it. You can have branches coming out round the outside as well. So let's just move this out of the way. You've sort of got your initial design. And again, all beautifully simple ideas. And then let's add some colour to this. So I'm going to grab an indigo blue, which is dark. I'm then going to grab another blue, and then let's grab a paler one. There we go. So then that blue picks up some of the colours in the background. So I'm going to use my Prismas. So this is PC 901. Let's make sure, let me move this off my knee and make sure you can see. Yes, we can see. So if I come in and add my indigo, what I would recommend is that you make sure that your card is dry, because you don't want to break that card down too much. So that's my indigo. And then my next colour is a violet blue, PC 933. Come in with 933. I'm only pressing very gently, and I whisper when I say I'm pressing very gently, because I'm a bit odd like that. So just come in with the electric blue, PC 1040. Now, can you guess what colour I'm going to pick up for a green? Can you guess? Chartreuse. Of course I am. So a little bit of chartreuse in there. So then I'm going to come back with my dark colour and just add another layer of that dark colour. Then come, that wasn't the dark colour, that was the mid colour, but we'll come back with a bit of the dark. There we go. then we'll come back with that electric blue, coming into the previous colours. So come into your previous colours. And then add your chartreuse. So just a little bit. Obviously I'm going to use that dark, very dark pencil just to, so that it's definitely hanging from something. You want it to be hanging, not just floating. So I'm coming in again with the same colours and just blending a little bit of that colour. Obviously we will come in with our touches of white as well. So what we can do is we can then colour our florals. I think I'll just use the 2 colours for the florals. So you can come in with your florals on this and just add a little bit of colour to your florals. Just to give them a little bit more oomph. So just spend a little bit of time. And I may even add a little bit of green just to the tips of those florals. So just adding a little touch of green just to those. And then I'll come in again and I'm going to add another layer of those colours. And they're only small florals, they don't need too much work. Doesn't matter what you colour with, you can colour with your oxides if you want, or your distress pencils, whichever works for you. When you add your touches of white, that's when things start to come to life. So I've already got hearts in mine here, so we can just add a few little, I can even, if I wanted to, I could just colour these with a bit of the chartreuse. It looks rather nice with the chartreuse. I can add a little bit, it does help if your Posca pen works. I seem to have a habit of picking the Posca pen that's doing nothing. There we go. So I can just add, let's give that a little bit of a shake as well. And then you can just come in and add a few touches of white just to highlight everything. It just brings everything to life. And then you can just sort of very lightly, you can even put a circle in here so that they've got like a moon or anything like that, but it's entirely up to you. Let's add a little bit of light to the branches, like so. Just come round and do it a little bit doodly. You can add a few little dots to the flower, just so that those are highlighted a little bit more. There we go. So there's lots of things you can do to sort of change it up. We've also, on TE 38, which I've now lost because Tracy's got too many stamps out. TE 38, you've also got a text stamp. So we've got this beautiful text stamp that says tree silhouettes, bare branches and stillness of the season. So that's also on there. So we can use that to add a little bit of text to our design. So let's bring in our project, and I'm going to use the Twilight. So let's use that Twilight. Can you tell I'm into Twilight at the moment? And then we can add a little bit of Twilight. And if you wish, you can even add a little bit of white embossing. Let's just add. So I'm just using it off the acrylic block. But you can see how you can change it up each time because you've got such a great selection of stamps in there. You then want to add a little bit of shading, preferably to your sort of light bulb here, just so that that's got a little bit of dimension, she says, as her brush is buried underneath everything else. But if there's any moisture on there, that will just, not enough, but I can just add some moisture to that round brush and just blend that out. Just so you've got a little bit of shade just underneath your light bulb. There we go. And I'll come back with my Posca pen and just bring in that white again, just so that you can see that a little bit more. Just bring that in, just so you can see it a little bit more. And you can even add shading underneath here if you wish. So I'm going to add a few splatters. So let's add a few splatters to this one. So just add a few splatters to that. And obviously we need to put the edges around here, which you should have done really before you added the Posca pen, but we'll add the black just around the edges, just to give our faux black mat. And it's probably better if you follow what Marguerite does. Marguerite does loads of these black edges, you know, already pre-done, and then when she goes to her Thrinchies, these are all ready for her. So let's just, there we go. Doesn't it look so much better with a black edge? Looks more finished, doesn't it? I could quite easily add a light bulb here from the top. So even these Thrinchies, I just love them. Little pieces of artwork, and they can inspire you so much. And by keeping the little books, it works really well. Let's just have, you can see I'm going over a couple of times, mainly because my Posca pen, it needs a little bit of a shake. So, and the other thing, if you do it like Marguerite, where you do these all in advance, it means that you don't make a mistake and slip and then ruin your work. That's better. Let's bring this in. I can't pick that up. So if you wanted to, you could quite easily not have too many stamps on your desk as often. So you could have a little light bulb here or here, but I quite like it like that. Sometimes I don't want to do too much. So do I want a word on there? So on TE24 with the light bulb, you've got some lovely words on here. So you've got original, spark of creativity, she says, as that drops. I can hardly see my stamp. So you've got original, artistic, spark of creativity, imaginative, and unlock your creativity. So there's, you know, wonderful little words on there. So I'm going to grab this. No, that is not the word I wanted. I thought it was that one I was grabbing. So use the word original. There we go. And I'm going to do this with my black ink. And it's up to you whether you decide to do it on white card or not. Let's grab some white. This is what I'm like all the time. And don't use, do you know what? It's another habit I've done. I have to be careful not to pick up the sheets that have got the designs on, because sometimes I've stamped on them and all. So let's use original. And we'll just cut that out. Let's just cut that down a little bit. There we go. And then you can spend a little bit of time deciding where you want your piece, where you want to add your wording. You may decide you don't want any wording. Let's have a look. You see, I like it when it doesn't split this up. I don't want it split up. I'm going to, oh, come on. I'm going to add them to my book and then decide, because sometimes that helps me to decide whether I want a word actually on there, because sometimes you might want a word like I haven't here and I haven't here. It just depends on your design. So let's add these to our pages. And it doesn't matter which one you have for which number. Really doesn't matter at all. It's up to you which one you have going wherever. They always look so good in the book. I love them. And I love revisiting. As you know, I've done it ever since I've designed. I've always revisited the older stamps, because if I designed them and I'd released them this month, they'd be the new designs. It's only the time of the year that you release them that dictates that they are new. These could have been new. There we go. That's it. And you know, I'm going to leave them like that. I don't want the word on. I may change my mind in 3 weeks' time, but that doesn't matter. That's the whole point of our little books and our Thrinchies that we're all doing together. And I'm loving it because the group is so active. It's wonderful. So I hope you've enjoyed those, and I hope you'll give those a go. So what I'm going to do, just to remind myself of the colours, just move that book out of the way. Just bring in my Thrinchie box. I've got a little box for my Thrinchies that I keep everything in. And where's my colour? I've got one for my colour schemes. Look, I'll show you. I've got my little books all in here. Hang on, not that one. Somebody was saying about how many black books. Look, I've got all my black books in my little Thrinchie box. So let's put that back up there. And this is me, I think this is my colour swatch book. Yes, it is. So this is where I do sort of colour swatches to decide what I'm doing. So I'm going to colour swatch, it doesn't matter what page I do them on. I'm going to colour swatch this because I love the colour scheme. So, bundled sage. Why don't you get a pen, Tracy? So, oh, let's do it with it, honestly. It's like my little book just for me, this is. So, bundled sage. Means I can look back on it and I don't forget the colour schemes. Particularly ones I'm loving. Cracked pistachio. Then we've got peacock feathers. And this is for me personally because it really helps me. Sometimes I can come upstairs and think, oh, I don't know what colours to use. And then I can just look through. Salty Ocean. There we go. And then I'm just going to give those a light spritz. And I know what you're thinking. Why are you spritzing them, Tracy, in a book? Just because the ink's not just sitting there then. I'm just going to give it a dry. And plus it looks a bit more artistic because that's me all over. So I'm just going to give those a dry. Because it's my little book and that's what I enjoy doing. And it doesn't matter if I put it on page 1, page 51, page 2. I've got them in different places in the book. So I'm just giving that a dry. And this is only sort of, you know, cartridge paper just for our Thrinchies, etc. But then I've got different, you see this one, I use my TE36, which is the cat stamp. And I use the circles to add the colour schemes. I could have done that with these. Just add the circle from the cat stamp TE36 and added the colours like I've done here. But I just wanted to add them. Then I know it's from the mini distress as well. I just love that. So that's my colour scheme book. And that is our Thrinchies, which was number 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49 and 50. So I really hope you've enjoyed those and you'll give those a go. Have a go with some trees standing up in here. But I hope you've enjoyed that and I hope you'll give those a go. So love to all and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.